The night was thick with the scent of gasoline and frying grease as Jake wiped down the counter of the highway restaurant where he worked as a host. It was a desolate stretch of road, the kind where travelers stopped only out of necessity, their faces worn and weary from endless miles of asphalt and loneliness. As Jake glanced up from his task, he noticed a figure standing in the doorway, a lone traveler, silhouetted against the glare of the neon sign outside. But there was something odd about this visitor, something that sent a shiver down Jake's spine. "I have a reservation," the stranger said, his voice low and gravelly. Confusion flickered across Jake's face as he glanced down at the reservation book on the counter. Flipping through its pages, he searched for any sign of the booking, but there was nothing, no record of a reservation made for that night. "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't see your name here," Jakey replied, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The stranger's lips curled into a smile, revealing a row of yellowed teeth that glinted in the dim light. "That's because my reservation was made 40 years ago," he said, his voice dripping with menace. A chill swept through the air as Jake's blood turned to ice. 40 years ago? It was impossible. No one could have made a reservation that far in advance. But as he stared into the stranger's cold, unblinking eyes, Jake felt a wave of unease wash over him, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before his eyes. With trembling hands, Jake led the stranger to a table in the far corner of the restaurant, his mind racing with 1,000 unanswered questions. Who was this mysterious visitor, and what did he want? But before he could voice his concerns, the stranger spoke again, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I've been waiting for this moment for 40 years, he said, his words hanging in the air like a curse. And then, with a flicker of movement that was almost too quick to see, the stranger lunged across the table, his fingers curling into claws as he seized Jake by the throat. Panic surged through Jake's veins as he fought for breath, his vision swimming with spots of darkness. But as he gazed into the stranger's eyes, he saw something there, something ancient and hungry, lurking behind the veil of human flesh. And in that moment, Jake knew that he was not dealing with a mere traveler, but something far more sinister, a creature that had lain dormant for 40 years, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. As darkness closed in around him, Jake uttered a silent prayer, knowing that he was powerless to escape the horror that had been unleashed upon him. For in the heart of the highway restaurant, a darkness had awakened, and it hungered for the souls of the living. In a quaint town nestled beneath shadowy woods, the air whispered secrets, and the trees seemed to harbor ancient memories. It was in this eerie backdrop that the disappearance of young Lily Montgomery shook the community to its core. Her vanishing left a void in the hearts of her parents, Sarah and John, who were never the same after that fateful night 15 years ago. The story began with a darkness that cloaked the night, where secrets lurked and sins hid in plain sight. Sarah and John, consumed by fear and desperation, made a choice they would forever regret. They believed they were protecting their daughter, but darkness has a way of twisting intentions. In a moment of panic, they silenced Lily's innocent laughter, and their actions condemned them to a lifetime of haunting guilt. 15 years later, as the clock struck midnight, a chilling ring echoed through the Montgomery household. Sarah's trembling hand reached for the phone, her heart pounding with dread. A familiar voice crackled through the receiver, sending shivers down her spine. It was Lily's voice, but it carried an otherworldly resonance, a haunting melody from the depths of the unknown. "Mom, Dad, it's me," the voice whispered, sending chills down their spines. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she exchanged a glance with John, their faces drained of color. How could this be possible? They buried their daughter's memory deep within the recesses of their minds, never expecting it to resurface like a ghost from the past. Trembling, Sarah brought the receiver closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Lily, is it really you?" The voice on the other end spoke with a haunting familiarity, recounting details only Lily could know. Memories flooded back like a torrential storm, reopening wounds they thought had healed. But beneath the facade of relief lay a sinister truth they dared not confront. Their daughter was dead, and they were her killers. As the conversation unfolded, the room grew colder, the shadows stretching like grasping fingers. Each word spoken carried the weight of guilt and deception, weaving a tapestry of horror that threatened to consume them whole. "Lily, where are you?" John finally managed to choke out, his voice thick with emotion. There was a chilling pause before the voice responded, dripping with malice. "I'm closer than you think, Dad." A sense of dread washed over them as realization dawned like a creeping nightmare. Lily's return was not a miracle, but a reckoning, a manifestation of their darkest fears and deepest regrets. They had awakened something sinister that night, something that hungered for justice. The phone slipped from Sarah's trembling fingers as the room plunged into darkness, the only sound echoing through the empty halls, a haunting laughter that sent shivers down their spines. In the depths of the night, amidst the whispers of the wind and the mournful cries of the lost, Sarah and John realized that some sins can never be buried, and some ghosts never truly rest. Their daughter's voice would haunt them forever, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked within their souls. And in the end, they would pay the ultimate price for their sins, for in the realm of shadows, there is no escape from the echoes of guilt. In the heart of the dense, dark woods, there stood a solitary cabin where an old woman resided. Her name was Agatha, and she was known by the locals as the keeper of ancient secrets, whispered to be a witch by those who dared speak her name. Legends spun tales of her solitude and the eerie aura that surrounded her dwelling. But there was one rule above all others: never, under any circumstance, venture outside after the sun dipped below the horizon. Agatha, however, was not one to adhere to the warnings of others. She had grown weary of the monotony of her isolated existence and yearned to taste the forbidden fruit of the night. So, one fateful evening, she made her decision to defy the age-old prohibition. With a flicker of defiance in her eyes, she stepped outside her cabin's threshold as twilight descended into darkness. At first, the forest seemed to welcome her with a deceptive calmness. The moon cast eerie shadows upon the tangled undergrowth as she ventured deeper into the woods, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. But as the minutes stretched into hours, the once familiar paths twisted and contorted, leading her astray into the heart of the unknown. A sense of unease crept over Agatha as the trees whispered their sinister secrets, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers in the moonlight. She quickened her pace, desperate to find her way back to the safety of her cabin. But the forest seemed to conspire against her, shifting and changing with each passing moment. Then, she heard it. A haunting melody that echoed through the trees, luring her deeper into the darkness. Unable to resist its enchanting call, Agatha followed the sound until she stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an otherworldly glow. In the center of the clearing stood a figure cloaked in shadows, its eyes gleaming with an unholy light. Agatha's blood ran cold as she realized the truth. She had stumbled upon a gathering of the forest's denizens, creatures of the night that hungered for her soul. With a sudden burst of realization, Agatha turned to flee, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped her, dragging her into the abyss as her screams echoed through the forest, swallowed by the night. In the days that followed, the villagers spoke in hushed tones of the old woman who dared defy the forest's ancient laws. Some whispered that she had met her end at the hands of vengeful spirits, while others claimed she had become one with the darkness itself. But one thing remained certain. Agatha's fate served as a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked within the woods, a cautionary tale for those who dared to tread where they were forbidden. And as the sun set on another day, casting long shadows across the land, the old woman's cabin stood empty and desolate, a silent testament to the horrors that lay hidden in the darkness.